We need to keep that warm round of applause going as we welcome Richard Harrison to the front of the room.
I came here at the last minute having no idea what I was going to do or if I was going to do anything. I signed up and thought, oh, well, I'm sitting here. Maybe I'll be inspired to talk about something. So this is less of a story and more of a ramble. Just feel free to end it at any point because it really has no ending. It can just keep going. But it does relate to the topic, new beginnings. First house I lived in wasn't a house. It was a trailer with a floor that went at a 45-degree angle. Great for Hot Wheels, bad for anything else. Second house I had was a fishing shack / garage that had been sort of converted into a house, but not very much. It eventually got destroyed by well water and mice, so I had to move out. Third house is the one I live in now, and this is the one I'm going to tell about because this was the closest thing to a real house I ever had, but it's still really not, as you will find out. But it did have a nice half-acre backyard with blueberry bushes, and I didn't even bother looking at the house. I just saw the blueberry bushes. Oh, I'm going to buy it. So, yeah, that's how I make judgments about big life issues. But one time I was sitting down with the real estate agent, and we were just talking about business stuff, and all of a sudden she looked up to me. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask you. It doesn't bother you at all if somebody died in the house, does it? And I'm like, oh, why did somebody die in the house? She said, well, I think somebody died in the house, but I'll check on it and I'll get back to you. And she did. She got back to me. She called me. Oh, I just want to let you know, they didn't die in the house, they died in the backyard. Somebody died in the backyard. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's how they get fertilized so well, and they get so many impact. I don't know. And then actually after this, I through other conversations, I found out that the person I was buying the house from actually worked with my ex-wife. And so I said to her, can you find out about this person dying in the backyard? You know, what that is, what is that all about? And she got back to me and she said, oh, you don't have to worry. Nobody died in the backyard. They died in the neighbor's backyard. Oh, okay. Don't feel so bad about it now. After moving in, I went and talked to the neighbor and asked about the person dying in the backyard. They said, no, they died a few houses down. It wasn't in our backyard. So, this person is probably like a Talmadge by now, this body. I don't know. It's just kept moving further and further away. But moving to the house, I did have strange things happen. And I can't really put them down to being hauntings because they were just odd. They weren't really scary. They were just odd. One of the first things that happened was my daughter and I, we went for a hike. And we came back, and our mailbox was gone. Somebody had pried the metal mailbox off the wooden stand and just taken it. It wasn't even lying on the ground. It was gone. And they did it in daylight hours too, which is weird. You could see people smashing it off at night when you're asleep, but they did it during the day. And it's like, oh, okay, my mailbox is gone. All right. The next strange thing that happened, didn't seem strange at first, as I pulled into my driveway from work, and there was an orange sitting in the driveway. Oh, there's an orange sitting in the driveway. Okay. Didn't really think too much of it, but I woke up the next day and there were oranges all over the front lawn. And okay. I kind of picked them up. I threw them on the compost. I didn't want to eat them at this point. It just seemed a little too unusual. But next day, pulled home from work, there were lemons in the driveway. Ran over a few of them, squished lemons, lemonade, right there on the ground. It's like, all right. Went to put them in the compost, and I looked in the back. There were oranges and lemons scattered all over the backyard. Now, the reason this was kind of strange was, well, first of all, right after I moved in, the neighbors had all put up fences. Wonder why. And nothing to do with me, I'm sure. And it was a long half acre, so the house was close to the road, so you could see people easily tossing him in the front, but it'd be very, very hard to get him into the back, unless they threw him over the fence from the house behind. But then they would have had to throw him over the fence in the hand behind, then drive around to the next street and put him in the front, too. So I didn't know, if this is like an operation with multiple people, doing this. And it happened during the night, and it happened during the day. So I'd wake up, oh, more oranges, throw them away. I'm not eating them, It's not like they had syringes sticking out of them or anything, but I didn't trust them at all. This sort of finally ended. This actually went on for a few months until one day there was no oranges, just a single grapefruit in the backyard. And that was the last piece of fruit. After that, they were done. But the following week, my daughter and I, we went to walk to Handel's Ice Cream to get an ice cream, and which is about 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back. We got back. My mailbox is sitting in the middle of the lawn. Now, I can see somebody damaging and vandalizing a mailbox. I can't see anybody keeping it for 6 months and then returning it to you. It was completely baffling to me why any of this happened or what was going on. And there was one final event that occurred which was sort of the last big one. It was the strangest one of all, but I don't know. Do I have enough time to tell that? Am I good? Okay, I'm not sure how good I am at time. One of the things I actually do is storytelling. Not like this. It's usually folk tales from Ireland, and I'm usually talking in funny voices. And I was reading. Yeah, they're completely incomprehensible, which is why I don't get many gigs. But one night I was reading a book on Irish folklore, and it was concerning, the idea of the fairies and the world, at certain evenings or at crossroads, the barriers between the two worlds are lessened, and, yes. And so I was reading all these different, rather haunting stories on people taking trips to fairyland, not returning 100 years later, and I fell asleep eventually, and at 4 a.m. I heard a noise. It was like someone was outside my bedroom window, and my bedroom window was on the first floor, and they were like right outside it. I could see their shadow moving around, so I went over there, and I could see this dark silhouette, and it seemed to be doing something under my bedroom window. So I opened the window, and I called out, and I said, "Who's out there?" Because I didn't know what else to say. What do you say? and they called back to me, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Well, I live in this house." What are you doing outside my window? He said, "Well, I'm storing my stash here." I go, what stash? He goes, "Well, my stash of stuff." I go, "What stuff?" "Well, it's a secret. It's my stash." I'm like, "Well, who are you?" And he's like, "Why, don't you trust me?" I'm like, okay, I eventually found out, he did eventually admit that he's a 17-year-old boy, and I told him that he had to take his stash and leave and stash it by somebody else's bedroom window because I didn't want it by mine. And he said, "Well, sure. I'll tell you what. Can I come in and call my mom, because I don't know where I am and I need someone to pick me up." Like, he doesn't know where he's storing his stash. Okay, and so. I was a little bit worried at this point because I couldn't quite see him. I didn't really know who he was. It was 4 a.m. and I was tired. And as part of my storytelling costume, I had a sword. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go to the door, let him use the sword, but I'm going to put the sword on because that way it looked threatening or something. Like, I feel safer. So, and I put this sword on, and I went out, and I opened the door, and with a sword, and gave him my phone to call. And it was a teenage boy. He was so nondescript, I can't remember what he looked like. And he didn't seem fazed by the sword at all. But he was, yeah. And he was talking on the phone. I could hear him, talking to his mom. And he asked me questions like, "What's this street?" I go, "It's Hyle Road." "Oh, I'm on Hyle Road." "What's the number?" I give him the number, 3847. "Oh, 3847. And then I could hear his mom ask, "Who are you talking to?" And he said, "Oh, don't worry, Mom, it's a stranger. But you don't have to worry about him. He's Irish." I don't know where that came from, because I was carrying a sword. I'm actually English, really. I'm not really sure. Was I wearing green that night? I don't remember. I really don't know. But eventually, he told me a ride was coming to pick him up at the airport, Kent State Airport, at the end of the street, and he promised me he would gather up his stash and not store anything under the window. So he was gone. The next day, I got up, and I had a few minutes before I had to go to work, and I decided I would go and check under the window just to see where he was hiding things. And I went, and right under the window, there was sort of a little hole dug, and there was tons of change. There was nickels, dimes, quarters, pennies, just scattered all over there, and all over the side, on the lawn by the side of the house. There was, I counted them, 29 lighters, all scattered by the side of the house too. There was huge stack of Dairy Queen coupons for free blizzards. and like sort of in the middle of all this was a birth certificate. And so I thought, what the heck? He didn't take his stash. What is it? What's with the change of the 29 lighters and the birth certificate? So I went to my phone and I called. I hit the redial and called, whatever number was on there last, and a guy answered, and I said, did you know anybody named? And I named the name on the birth certificate. He goes, no. And then I explained about how his son was here last night and, had left everything. I'll be over there in a minute. Okay, well, I got to get to work. So I go out, get in my car. He really was over there in a minute. I started pulling out, and this truck comes, stops. Big guy gets out. He opens up a wooden box with carvings around the outside, gathers up all the things, puts it in there, locks it, gets back in the truck, and drives away. I really don't have anything more to say after that. That's the end of the story. Totally dumbfounded as to why this happened. So I think I'm probably done with my 5 minutes.